Hello again and welcome to day 2 of our prayer devotionals during our Hope Church prayer week. We started looking yesterday at Ephesians chapter 3, starting in verse 14. We've read through the whole thing, and today we're going to have a look at the next verse and a half, starting in verse 16. And it reads, "I pray that out of his glorious riches he may strengthen you with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith." So yesterday we looked at who we're approaching, reminding ourselves that we're approaching a sovereign God, and we considered how we're to approach him. We're to approach him with humility. And the things that really stand out in this verse and a half is what we're praying for and for what purpose. And the first thing is that we read here Paul's prayer for the Ephesians is that out of God's glorious riches he may strengthen them with power through the Spirit in their innermost being. So his prayer for them is not strength and power in the sense that physical strength. It's an inward, it's a soul strength that he's praying for, and that should be our prayer today as we approach God in our prayer week. We should be seeking an inner soul strengthening, and it's that strength to not overcome with might, but it's the strength to persevere. It's the strength to endure hardship. It's the strength to encounter and overcome opposition and temptation, even whatever that might be. Your prayer for today, to overcome temptation. It's a prayer that manifests itself. It's a strength, that manifests itself in consistent discipleship and discipline. It's the ability to execute your calling, the things that we've been called to do under God's commission and purpose for our lives, which we don't have the strength in ourselves to do. So that's what Paul is praying for the Ephesians. It's this soul strength to overcome, to persevere, to endure, to execute our calling. And that should be our encouragement and our prayer for today, that God would fill us with that strength out of his glorious riches. And then we see in the latter half, or the next part of the first part of the next verse, is the purpose, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. Now you might think, well, that's a bit of a peculiar thing. If we are Christians, if we've been called into God's kingdom, our eternal destination is secure, then Jesus is already dwelling in our hearts. So what's being sort of proposed here? And I think what Paul is getting at is that this is an ongoing faith in Christ, and that we need a strength that's given to us by God that allows us to endure, that allows us to persevere, and that we do that by placing our trust in Christ. And that faith rises. We experience Jesus living in our lives, dwelling in our hearts by putting our faith and our trust in him on a day-to-day basis. We're leaning upon him. We know he's there because we lean upon him. If we don't lean upon him, we don't know if he stood beside us. So this is what we're praying for today, and what we're praying, and why we're praying it, that we may grow in faith. And tomorrow we're going to look at how that then continues and manifests itself in the further prayers. So my encouragement for you today is that to seek God for that strengthening of your soul, and that in doing so, that there will be a growing faith in Christ as you lean on him, as you experience him, as you develop this intimacy with him that we're going to explore in more depth tomorrow. That's our encouragement for today. God bless you all, and we'll speak to you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.